Today we're looking and talking about the rest of the mobile phones that I ever owned. The last time we left off with the only actual phone that I have still in my possession, the iPhone 4. Moving on. Released in April 2014, and I got one in July of 2014, the Samsung Galaxy S5. In gold. Ooh. This is when I got excited enough about a device in order to take pictures of it in the box that it came with as a new something I've recently started doing again because capturing memories and being able to look back on it in time. A screen resolution of 1080 by 1920. That's right, we're HD, baby. Oh, wow, look, Magikarp. I haven't played that in years. Oh, wow. And old school RuneScape. It's been less time I've done that, and I've used it as a camera. Alright, well, those are the apps that are currently on, and it won't even let me swipe, huh? Oh no, it does want to swipe. It's just very, oh, okay, cool. Is the time and date accurate on this one? Well, at least it detected Denver pretty well. But no, that's not the time. After the trouble I had with the iPhone 4 and the button keeping breaking on me, that was English. This thing has been through it. You can see the gold chipping off all around the edges. I did have it in a case. It is no longer. I don't know what that is. It doesn't come off. It doesn't clean. Maybe that's just wear. But yeah, gold phone, of course. We do actually have some features on this one. We're back to removable batteries. Look at that. Yeah. That is a 2800 milliamp hour removable battery. You know, the big deal about all the removable batteries is great. I have never once replaced a battery in my phone. I know my dad has at one point. He also had a Samsung Galaxy S5, although not in gold, and his battery ballooned up, like a pillow like they do, and he did actually replace it and keep it going for a while. I think it's very important to have removable batteries. I yet have ever replaced a removable battery, which is funny. We've also got some decent specs on the inside. We have 2 gigs of RAM in this thing, something I could not even find information on the previous phones. And we're up to 16 gigabytes of storage space. How about that? Our rear camera on the back here is a 16 megapixel 31 millimeter equivalent at the time. Pretty nice. With a 2 megapixel on the front 22 millimeter equivalent, which makes sense. Your front camera, you typically want a wider angle. And of course it could do video as well. This could record in 4K 30? Why are all the videos in my archive 480 pixels? No, wait, I take that back. I have one single file that was recorded in all of 720. And it's me ranting about a fake tree in Pokemon.
What the f***? Why do these trees constantly grow back? Are they super growing trees that as soon as you leave, they're going to come back? Or is there actually somebody who comes along and replants these trees immediately after you leave?
Of course, since it has the ability and it seems to still be working, we'll go ahead and test out both of these cameras. The front facing, how do I switch you around? Nope, there we go. The front facing camera, beauty face, is it? And the rear-facing camera. We have some video from the back. The following will be unavailable or recording in UHD resolution, dual camera mode, HDR, rich tone, video effects, remote viewfinder, taking pictures while recording video. That might be why I never tried it, because they gave me that warning and I went, oh, well, I still want all of those things. And so for some reason, I never decided to record in 4K. But this thing can do 4K. Let's see it. The Samsung Galaxy S5 recording in 4K 30. Meanwhile, the front camera doesn't give you any options for video, but it looks fairly clear on a screen this size. We'll see what happens when I'm editing. The Samsung Galaxy S5 does have other great photos though, such as new apartment, existing damage, a Lego man, a new apartment kitchen, a new apartment living room, before and after. Tire eyes. The Samsung Galaxy S5 was really the first phone that I can remember going, wow, this is awesome. The iPhone was like, it's cool, but everyone had an iPhone. No one had a gold phone. It was stupid, but I liked it. And yes, I was mocked ridiculously for my gold phone. I liked it. I would get a gold phone again, given the option. Speaking of gold phones, guess what I upgraded to in 2 years? The Samsung Galaxy S7 in gold. Do you see a pattern? Well, don't get used to it. Look, it still boots up after I've been charging it. The last time I was using it as a Bluetooth device in order to start and stop recording on the camera that I have that doesn't have any way to plug in an adapter or any kind of device to start and stop recording. It only has the option for Bluetooth, which is just so useful, and I really like that feature. Black magic. The Samsung S7 released in March of 2016. I got mine in May of 2016. I don't have any photos of the box. I probably still have the box somewhere all packed up, but I'm guessing what happened, because I kind of remember this, someone went, "You're taking pictures of the box of your phone? That's stupid." And I, for some reason, agreed with them and then didn't do it. That was stupid of me to stop doing something that I wanted to do. I should have just done what I wanted to anyway. With an upgraded screen, we are now up to 1440 by 2560 pixels. Yeah, we're getting up there now. Featuring a 3000 milliamp hour battery. This isn't that long ago, and honestly, still kind of decent for a lot of things. Not great for a lot of apps or playing too many games. I was using this to play a lot of Pokemon Go. And apparently I've broken the button on it, I just noticed. There's also some damage that I do specifically remember getting up near the top, some scratches, from when I went fishing with a friend and put this into my tackle box, along with all the hooks. Why did I do that? I was immediately disappointed in myself. I like to keep phones in as good of condition as possible for as long as possible. On the inside, we do have 4 gigabytes of RAM, so that's a double from the last one that I had on the S5, and 32 gigs of storage, again doubling from 16 on the last one. This, however, was the first camera that I bought an SD card for, and I know because the files came off of an SD card, and I remember getting one specifically for this. It would pop out of the top here. I got that because I actually started taking a ton of pictures and video, and I needed a way to save all those, and I would quickly fill up the 32 gigs of storage that are in here, minus all of the room you need for Android and whatnot. There also was another version of this that I did not get because it didn't come in gold, I think. The edge, where they had the screen wrapped around to the edge. This is not mine. This is my significant other's, but she had the Galaxy S7 Edge, and I happen to have it here because she's certainly not using it anymore, and I've repurposed it for something else, but I never had the Edge, and as a matter of fact, the newest phone that I use, I actually don't like that the pixels run, that the touchscreen capability runs all the way to the edge, because I'm constantly holding the phone in a way that the side of my hand is bumping things and then it activates on the phone. I'm not a fan of that. So I'm glad I didn't have the edge, because that probably would have driven me crazy 7 years ago as opposed to currently today. Interestingly enough, unfortunately, a downgrade in the cameras. Our rear camera is only a 12 megapixel, 26 millimeter equivalent, but it's less than last time. Megapixels are not everything, understand that. This probably does take better photos, but it's interesting that they went back slightly. On the front, we do have an upgrade, though. We have a 5 megapixel, 22 millimeter equivalent. Let's try them out. We will start with the front-facing camera and record a front-facing video, not vertically, though. Stop. We are capable of capturing 4K at this point on the front-facing camera. However, I had no reason to capture 4K footage at that point in time, and clearly did not future-proof anything by thinking, oh, I'll record in higher quality. So the videos I have are not the best. And then we have the rear-facing camera recording in 4K. Cool. However, the Samsung Galaxy S7 does have such great photos as bedside table with old phone showing, water spritz, when I got into buying Bionicle again, a setup for recording myself playing video games, a nice water landscape, Hooked myself a bird. And such great videos as drinking Lego for a skit idea that never came together. Still, for some reason I was recording in 1080, even though this had the capability of recording in 4K. About a year and a half later, not quite as long as I've had most other phones, I was ready for another upgrade, and the Pixel 2 XL was looking mighty nice. A little orange button, you know how I like orange. White and black? My nickname was Panda for a while, so this seemed pretty appropriate. Looking through the photo archives for when I first got it, it looks like it was December 22nd of 2017. Maybe I got myself a little early Christmas present. Our screen resolution size is up to 1440 by 2880, and our battery has increased to 3520 milliamp hours. Non-removable, unfortunately. It did get a fingerprint sensor on the back, though. Honestly, something I kind of like. The Pixel 2 XL does come with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage, which is the same RAM as my previous phone, but double the storage. Pretty nice. That's actually what time it is right now. We've gotten the first one that actually is accurate to the time. Fingerprint sensor. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. I've obviously wiped this since then and repurposed it into something else. I think the last thing I was using this Pixel for was, I got one of those headsets, the Daydream headset that Google has since killed off entirely, and I was using it for VR, which was a neat experience for all of about 10 minutes, and then I got bored of it, and it hurts my eyes to try to look through. I think my eyes are not working so well when it comes to VR. I've always wanted to try it with something more up to date and not a phone inside of a headset 2 inches from your face. Something with a little bit more resolution would be nice. Sony's got a pretty nice. Anyway, the Google Pixel 2 XL. Really cool. I really like this. I used it a lot. The only thing... I have everything in dark mode, which does nothing to show what it is that I want to show happened here. There we go. The only downside is that I started getting dead pixels on the side there. It started with just a couple at first, and then it spread significantly. But by the time I'd stopped using this, it never really affected anything anyway. But yeah, unfortunately, I got a good number of dead pixels on there. I was actually planning to repurpose this more recently and just use it as a camera for recording these videos specifically. I was having a bit of trouble with an alternative angle, getting close-ups and things like that, and I thought, well, if I needed something else, I could take this, and also to try to replace that GoPro that was terrible, I could use this and record it handheld for anything close-up. I didn't really want to do that because I can't hook this up through HDMI in any way and record it to one input, so that's yet another video signal that I have to edit in. So I wound up not doing that. Right now it has no purpose. I might find something for it later on. For a camera option, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got here. We'll take an image here out of our front camera. The front camera is an 8 megapixel 25 millimeter equivalent, and the rear is a 12.2 megapixel 27 millimeter equivalent. This is currently during the phase where it's just the megapixels weren't really trying to go anywhere. They were improving the sensors, which I really appreciate because a better sensor is better than more megapixels out of a worse sensor, especially if you can get a bigger sensor. I do know a little bit about cameras. Let's try video. We do have the option of being able to record in 4K, so let's get a little recording of my hand wiggle here in 4K, and then no options for the front camera as far as resolution goes. I assume this is recording in 1080, and that is all you get on the Pixel 2 XL. The Pixel 2 XL does have such great photos as cat, chips, sleeping cat, F in my room. The Pixel 2 XL lasted longer than the previous phone from the Samsung going to Google. This one was a while, and during the time of having this, I knew what the next one I was going to get, and I was just waiting for it to be released. As soon as they announced it, I pre-ordered it immediately. And I don't regret that purchase, but the next thing I would upgrade to was the Surface Duo. The Microsoft Surface Duo was really cool because you get multiple screens. Look at that. I am all about multiple screens. I am ready for them to come back in a way that I can afford and that I'm pleased with. And Google's announced something. We'll look at it. But it's not my plan as of right now. I should clean the fingerprints off this. We do have a fingerprint reader right here on the side that I do care for and I like, and I only broke once when I took this out in my pocket while I was shoveling snow in Wyoming, and apparently the cold is really bad for it. I thought I'd broken it forever because it would not respond at all, but I was actually able to do some troubleshooting and managed to figure out a way to completely reboot its sensor, and then it went back to working just fine. It's about the only hiccup I really had with it. Our screen resolution is 1800 by 2700 pixels because there are 2 of them, which is awesome. Battery size, hovering right around the last phone that I had, 3577 milliamp hour battery, non-removable of course. For all the other phones that were coming out around this time, there were plenty of people that were saying this was going to be terrible because it's what was the phrase I saw? Next gen pricing on last gen hardware. It wasn't the most up to date. That took them a while to build it, I assume, and it was something that came out with the previous generations of hardware on it. So it wasn't the fastest or best phone. But I did like it, honestly. I liked a lot about it. I really liked having 2 screens. I liked being able to just go to a single screen. I liked being able to prop the phone up so that I could then watch videos on something. I really liked having 2 screens. And because these are 2 separate screens, I never had to worry about anything. I mean, the hinges could break, but I didn't have to worry about any problems with the screen cracking or breaking or anything like that, as most foldable phones do. Despite that people were saying it was last gen hardware and it wasn't going to be as good or up to date on anything, it came with more RAM than my previous phone. We're up to 6 gigs of RAM in here and double the storage, 128 gigs built into it. Microsoft didn't exactly have a great history of making phones as it was, but I was willing to try it out, and I really liked what they had with this stuff. I did not own a Surface tablet, but I got to play with one once, and I was really impressed by it, so I figured the phone would be more of the same, and honestly, I really liked a lot about this. The only thing I didn't like was the camera. The camera was an 11 megapixel 23mm equivalent, and honestly, it just doesn't look good. By this point, by the time I had this, I was full into wildlife. I was using DSLRs and taking photos, and I was onto everything. And then I would just be disappointed when I took a picture with this phone. It only has the one. There is nothing on the back as far as that goes. I always liked this case around the edges, but you only get the one camera, which is fine. You don't really need it. It does switch back and forth. Look, there's the camera that's recording. And then if you wanted to, it did have the option to record in 4K 60 though, which is pretty impressive. But overall, I would move away from this eventually, mostly because of the camera. I like everything else about it. I still put it to use. I use it for reading. It's fantastic for reading. I'll tell you what, if you like reading ebooks, it's not quite as good as an e-ink screen, but having 2 pages on there, pretty nice. I do like that, having the ability to do that, and it's basically its own stand. It was great for what it was. It just really, with that camera, was the reason that I decided to move away from it. It was able to take such great photos as cat in sun, messy setup, bright setup, cameras. But enough of the Surface, it is moving on to the final one that we have to talk about today. Away from the Surface and back to the Samsung, actually. Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. I picked it up refurbished in August of 2021. I've been making videos with this. This has been my daily driver, essentially, is the term for it, and I haven't had a single issue with it. I'd always heard refurbished phones, anything that's been used or has had to be fixed in some way, is a gamble. You're not going to get a warranty, it's probably going to break, don't do it. And so this is the first phone that I ever bought that wasn't brand new. And honestly, I'd keep buying refurbished phones because I haven't had a single issue with it. Like I said, it's been amazing. The only thing that I can slightly complain about this phone is that the edges are kind of rounded. And so when I'm holding it, my phone, if I'm gripping around the edges, see where like my fingers here are gripping the bottom of how I naturally hold the phone because I don't want to hold it back off the screen. I'll do this and then it'll start registering me touching down here. I'm not touching down there, I'm touching all over the rest of it. Why are you doing? I don't care for the rounded edges that much. It's unfortunate that screens are kind of going to that. Give me a flat phone. Give me a square flat phone again. Thin and flat edges, that's what I want. But this phone is great. I even downloaded a new theme just recently. I really like the teal and orange. They're kind of some of my favorite colors, and honestly what I use for a lot of when I'm editing and things like that and I need a color design. I use a lot of teal and orange. I know that there's a whole thing about that, especially when it comes to color grading and videos and whatnot. But anyway, those are my favorite colors, and that's what I've got here on my phone. This is something that I use literally every day. I was using it just before I started recording. I'm going to continue using it after. I put it in the last video where I was talking about Star Wars because I was playing a Star Wars game. I also play Pokemon Go on it sometimes. I've kind of fallen off of Pokemon Go recently. They've been making a lot of changes that I'm not happy with, but here's more of the Star Wars game because that's what I do. I play other games on there, but I don't play a whole lot of games anymore, honestly, when it comes to it. But this is the phone that I've been using now for almost 2 straight years. No issues, has been fantastic. We have a screen size of 1440 by 3200 pixels, so we are getting up there in screen size when it comes right down to it. Stop. I don't know how to use it upside down. Oh look, there's my release schedule of when I'm recording and what goes where. A significant upgrade, however, in capability. This has 12 gigs of RAM. That's double the last one. And yeah, it is zippy. It's got a fast refresh rate. And honestly, the faster refresh rate is well worth it. And just blows me away. I do that instead of a higher resolution because the refresh rate just makes it so much better. I like resolution in some things, but when it comes to this, that refresh rate. It also has 128 gigs of storage, but specifically the reason I found this, I went on a website that allows you to compare phones by their features, and I said, this is great. I want something that's a much better camera from my last one, and it's gotta have an SD card slot. Removable battery, it would be great, but take it or leave it. As I said before, I've never replaced a removable battery in any phone I've had, so honestly, as much as I want them to have it, and I want them to have a headphone jack because that's what the majority of people want, and I want that for other people, I'm never going to use a headphone jack on there. I'm just going to use Bluetooth. If I want to listen to something, I'm going to sit down with nice headphones. I'm not going to do it out of my phone. And if I need to replace a battery, that would be useful, but it's not a take it or leave it. The SD card is. I've got a terabyte SD card in here because I've been using it to record videos left and right, and I use it constantly. For a while, this was the main vlogging camera. I've upgraded since then, but it's still extremely useful to have. However, speaking of camera, this thing has them to spare. Look, we are onto the multiple cameras. This is the wave of the future of what's going on here. What I don't care for is how much it sticks out the back of the phone and really raises that up. At the very least, I was able to get a case to put around it and then kind of make it even better by putting a little card thing on there because I don't carry a wallet and I just keep my cards in there. Obviously not for this video, but they're there. I don't mind it with that. But for the cameras, we have 108 megapixel 26 millimeter equivalent. We have a 48 megapixel 103 millimeter equivalent and a 12 megapixel 13 millimeter equivalent. For the front camera, we have a 40 megapixel 26 millimeter equivalent. And yeah, this thing is definitely, of the phones that I've ever owned, this one takes the best photos, hands down. I don't use the 108 megapixel all that often. It's not really that great when it honestly comes down to it. And when I'm taking a picture on my phone, I'm typically taking it to quickly share in some way. Let me snap a picture of what the cat is doing. It's really funny. And then I'll send it on Discord to someone. I can't send a picture that's 108 megapixels. It won't resize them and it won't share them with me. It just tells me to get nitro, but even if I had it, it wouldn't share them anyway because there's still a file size limit. So what good does that do me? And I'm not going to pay Discord. I don't use it that much and I don't like what they do with it. Anyway, this is not about that. This is about the cameras and stuff. But it's been great. And honestly, I'll do the same thing I've been doing and take some pictures and video with it now. But you've seen them before if you've seen anything I've done on my channel because I use my phone for a lot of stuff, especially if it's a quick thing or back before I had dedicated vlogging cameras. That's what this was for. All kinds of camera options as far as on the front and the rear with what that goes. We'll be able to take, we've got wide and close for the photos. The video only has one option for when you're self-recording, but it can record in 4K 60. Again, that's the standard that I use for all of the vlogs that I make and things like that. Everything except for this video series right here is in 4K 60. And you do get only one camera option for the rear in 4K 60. You have more camera options if you record in lesser formats, but for me, it's going to be 4K 60. Since August of 2021, the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra has been able to provide such great photos as landscape, my face, landscape, monitors, landscape, mini quesadilla, cat. And that takes us up to current of all the phones that I've ever owned. For right now, as of recording this, because that is today's date, in about a month, I'll have a new phone. Ish. Maybe a little after. It'll depend. I'm moving and stuff. But the point is, I know what the next one I'm going to get is. The next phone I plan on buying is made by Sony. And that shouldn't really come as too much of a surprise if you follow anything else I do, because I use Sony cameras. And the Sony phone, it uses the same kind of stuff as the Sony camera, and I'm really impressed by the newest one that they've put out. From what I've heard of it so far, it hasn't actually officially released yet. It will come out at the end of July, and my plan is to purchase it pretty much as soon as it does come out. I'm really interested. I like everything about it. It's going to be more pixels, a better resolution, with a faster refresh rate. It's going to be OLED, so it's going to look fantastic. It's got more storage, more RAM. It's got good cameras, and again, I really like what Sony's done with the cameras. I've switched entirely to using Sony cameras when I go out to take pictures of wildlife. It's got a 3.5mm jack, which will be great. I don't care that much, but it will be great. It's got the micro SD card slot, and I can use it as a monitor when I'm out with my Sony cameras, because I do need to get a new monitor, but if I have the phone, that will be a nice stopgap between the two. It's pricey, but I'm really excited to get that. The Sony Xperia 1V, because for some reason, is it the 1.5? I don't know. I assume it's the V. I've been looking at Sony for a while now. I've been deciding that's kind of where I want to go. It's got a lot of features that I like, and it's different from the other ones. Samsung is okay, not great. Microsoft, you tried. Google, we'll see. Maybe the Google Fold will want me to go back to Google, but at this point, I don't mind the Samsung as it is, but the Sony is definitely where I'm headed next. After all of this, I think I'm ready to try a different company. I'm ready to try something different. It's all kind of a gamble. They all have pluses and minuses, no matter which way you go. But the Sony's the next one that I want. A phone is something that, unfortunately, in today's world, you just can't live without. I try to minimize everything I do on my phone down to nothing because I've just wound up wasting too much time on it. As a matter of fact, currently going on in the world, Reddit's basically dead to me because Reddit's forcing people to use their app or nothing, and I choose nothing. I don't like the Reddit app. I've much preferred other apps that I've used. I used to use Infinity. That's dead. It's pay only, and Reddit's not worth paying for, in my opinion. I'm done with it. I have a lot more free time now that I'm not wasting my time on Reddit anymore, that's for sure. And the same thing is true of all the phones that I've ever had and all the apps that I've used to use. I used to use social media. I won't touch social media now. Not at all. Facebook, Instagram, all of that. I actually used to use that on a regular basis, and it is all dead to me. I've deleted a lot of old accounts because I don't have a need for it. I don't want it. But that's not the main purpose of the phone. I did enjoy Reddit for a long time because I would use it for learning, and that's what I try to make my phone be. I do try to use it for cameras as a quick way to share something in some way, to keep connected with people that I want to keep connected with. It's a necessary tool in today's world. I can't really go without it, and I do like it, and I like what I do with it. I'm excited to merge the world of the phones that I use with that stuff and the world of the cameras that I already do. I have been doing that for a while by recording different ones. This phone specifically, I made a comparison video between this phone and this camera that's recording at one point because these were my two options to vlog, and I wanted to see what was better, recording in 4K 60 straight out of this or recording in 1080 60 on the camera that's currently facing downward and then upscaling it. I didn't really come to any kind of conclusion. You can go watch that video if you want. It's here on the channel. But the main point is that I like phones. I like cameras in phones. I use them for a lot of purposes, and I'm ready for a new phone. I've had this one for almost 2 years. It will be 2 years in August, and August is probably when I will get a new phone. Quite excited about that. For all of these reasons, and honestly even more that I couldn't get into because this was long enough as it was, and I had to split it into two parts. I like phones. I like the phones that I've had. I don't have any major gripes except for that iPhone. And I will continue to like phones as I get my next one that I'm very excited for. Next month. Maybe I'll do a video on that one.